after President Trump imposed his blanket tariffs plan. And that includes, as you can see there, tariffs 25% on Canada, on Mexico, and on China. It's increased from 10%, doubling, obviously, the tariffs from imports from 10 to 20%. Those duties come on top of the existing tariffs on hundreds of billions in Chinese goods. That's just important to point out. And the measures mark the beginning of what is a trade war. Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, says he's not going back to back down from this fight. Very fiery indeed. Have a listen.
Let me be crystal clear. There is absolutely no justification or need whatsoever for these tariffs today. Now, the legal pretext your government is using to bring in these tariffs is that Canada is apparently unwilling to help in the fight against illegal fentanyl. Well, that is totally false.
Where we have our team, as you can see, right across the latest developments. Our Paula Newton, as you can see there, is in Ottawa in Canada. We'll go to her in just a moment. Valeria Leon joins me live from Mexico City. But first, I want to go to Vanessa Yurkovich in New York. And Vanessa, let me start with you. You know, this administration is very much about America first, economic stability, low prices. Give us a sense of the impact that this will have on U.S. consumers and how soon, critically, they will feel it.
Yeah, well, according to the CEO of Target, American consumers are going to feel it in a matter of days. And that is because Target, for example, gets fruits and vegetables from Mexico and from Canada. And now with this 25% tariff on both countries, they're going to be bringing these perishable items in very quickly, and they're going to see those tariffs. And American consumers can expect to see higher prices at Target in a matter of days. Also, we heard the same thing from Best Buy. Walmart, which is a big bellwether for the U.S. economy here in the United States, also said that they are assuming that they're going to see slower consumer spending, slower growth over the next year. I also want to just draw your attention to what markets have been doing here in the United States. For the past 24 hours, we've really seen markets in the red. The Dow plummeting as much as 900 points at one point yesterday and 800 points at one point today. You can see the NASDAQ recovering slightly there. But really, this is investors digesting the fact that they believe consumers are going to have to pay higher prices and they're going to pull back on spending, really creating a shaky business outlook. And for American consumers, we know that in the last month, consumer confidence has fallen. Inflation here in the U.S. has picked up in the month of January, and tariffs just infuse a whole new situation into the mix about what prices are going to look like. For the average consumer, cars could cost a lot more here in the U.S. One estimate suggests that the cost to build a car will be between $3,500 and $12,000 more. And for the average American family here, one estimate suggests that because of these tariffs, we can expect to pay $1,200 more every single year. That is just something that American families don't want to have to be thinking about right now, especially when President Trump said that on day one he was going to lower prices. Now with this trade war, we're getting the signal that prices are going to rise. So a lot of uncertainty on Wall Street today, a lot of uncertainty on Main Street. We are waiting to hear from the president tonight to see how he's going to justify these tariffs for the American consumer. He said there's going to be a little bit of pain up front, but at the end of the day, it will work out and it will be beneficial. Let's see what he has to say about that.
A bitter pill to swallow, no doubt, for U.S. consumers, but we will see, of course, what President Trump says and how he spins it. Let me go to Paula Newton in Ottawa. And Paula, it does seem from what we just laid out that we are perhaps in for a sustained trade war here, something that no country wanted to see. But we did hear, we played a little clip there of a very defiant Trudeau calling President Trump, or Donald, as he called him, his decision dumb. Already, President Trump threatening further retaliatory action. Just give us a sense of what we heard from Trudeau, because he did not hold back there.
He did not hold back. In fact, that was probably the most strident and blunt that I have seen him in his entire political career as prime minister. And that is really saying something. I will add, Issa, certainly that he is on his way out. He will likely only be prime minister of Canada for the next few days, given the political chaos happening here. This entire country, though, Issa, I have to tell you, is united on this issue of tariffs. They do see it as Donald Trump basically picking on Canada and why. It is this issue of trying to make Canada the 51st state that has everyone so riled. And that is just the geopolitics of the issue. And I want you to listen now to how Prime Minister Justin Trudeau actually opened his address to the American people and to Donald Trump directly. Listen.
The United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense.
Make that make sense. It doesn't make sense, especially not to Canadians here. Isa, I have seen again the anti-Americanism here in Canada swelling, and Canadians will act on it. They will continue to look out for all products that are American and refuse to buy them. The escalation, the retaliation literally continues by the hour. I want to be clear here, though. The Prime Minister himself saying, look, I don't want to sugarcoat this. This will be tough on Canadians. In fact, they will hurt likely much more than Americans, even though, you know, Vanessa did point out this will be hurting Americans as well.
And indeed, and look, yesterday when we heard that the tariffs will be coming in, it was during our hour. We saw the Dow, as Vanessa was saying, we saw the Dow take a plummet. And we also heard, I remember this clearly, President Trump was asked whether anything could be done to consider, another position to consider, nothing that Canada or Mexico do. And he said there wasn't, other than he said, Paula, maybe to build a factory here, which then, you know, one reporter asked, well, maybe this is not, is this really about fentanyl? Make that make sense, Paula. Let me take that to you.
Yeah, and Justin Trudeau made it clear again. Isa, I want to say that, look, many Canadians who have told me that they agree with Donald Trump on firming up the border. And taking fentanyl to one side, remember, the vast majority of all the illegal guns in Canada come from the United States. There are real reasons to secure the border, and that's in Canadians' interest. But the issue of fentanyl itself is, as Justin Trudeau said, a pretext. It's false. I would go as far as to call it a lie. Why? All the fentanyl seized between the United States and Canada, I could carry in my own two hands across the border. Just one trip.
We shall see. Just one trip,
certainly, it is certainly an issue, Isa, but again, it is that issue of, is this a pretext, which then leads to what is this about? And it is the issue of whether or not the United States, Donald Trump, is trying to break Canada economically, which is why he continues to call it the 51st state.
Paula, do stay with us. I want to go to Valeria Leon in Mexico City. Valeria, give us a sense of how President Sheinbaum, how she's responding, and what kind of retaliatory action we're going to see vis-a-vis, obviously, these U.S. tariffs.
So President Claudia Sheinbaum said Mexico will always look for a negotiation, but stressed that this unilateral decision affects both countries. Sheinbaum has announced that Mexico will respond to the tariffs with tariff and non-tariff measures that she will announce in a public event on Sunday. And this means that so far we still don't know exactly what measures the Sheinbaum government is going to take. But a phone call between President Donald Trump has been scheduled for this Thursday. So we're going to have more details on that this same week. And as these new trade barriers come into effect, an air of intense uncertainty has taken hold of both small and large business owners. Yeah. Meanwhile, local and state governments within Mexico have started to brace themselves for rapidly rising unemployment. In today's morning press conference, President Sheinbaum said the U.S. was acting unilaterally and contrary to the terms of the North American trade agreement that President Trump himself had pushed for during his first term in office. She also called for the U.S. to respect Mexico while pointing out that U.S. government has to deal with its own fentanyl crisis rather than placing all the blame on Mexico and organized crime, as the Trump administration seems to be doing, in her opinion. And over the past few weeks, Mexico adopted a strategy of complying with Trump's demands on several fronts at once. For example, taking action against fentanyl-producing cartels, curbing migration, and also limiting Chinese economic sway over Mexican industrial production. Isa.
Yeah, which is something that President Trump said yesterday. They haven't done enough, referring to Canada and Mexico. Valeria, Paula, and Vanessa, really appreciate you staying with us to break it all down. A crucial story that will stay across for our viewers. Still to come, meantime, right here on the show, President Trump set to address Congress for the first time in his second term as he looks to justify a whirlwind first 40 days to the American people. Plus,
coming up, I'll be looking at the types